Hey, welcome back to another time-lapse art video, working on my graphic novel again. The sort of video I'm going to do right now has been vastly popular in the videos that have been made, which is I look at other religious practices and see what I think about it. Man, so many people responded to this. Maybe they responded to this one. Gnosticism. Gnosticism is one of the earliest Christian heresies. Even John was dealing with it in John's epistles. And there's a lot to do about what Gnosticism even is. Because, we hear this word, Gnosticism. Some people even get it confused with agnosticism. And really, it's something completely different than agnosticism. Although it has the same root word within it. Gnosis, I forget what that is. Latin? I don't know, probably Greek. Gnosis, which means knowledge. Agnostic means a lack of knowledge. In other words, you're saying, well, I don't know whether or not God exists, right? That's what it means to be an agnostic. Now, Gnosticism is not agnostic because it doesn't have that prefix that says no or a, right? It is Gnostic. And Gnostic is all about secret hidden knowledge. Hence the gnosis, right? So what are the precepts? Well, I have the Nag Hammadi scriptures, which was a compiled group of Gnostic texts that were all found together in this one place in Egypt, Nag Hammadi. I bought that and I flipped through it a little bit, and I find something fascinating about the way that it's worded and conceived of, and so I just wanted to talk about it. So, essentially, Gnosticism, there are so many different forms of Gnosticism, and even within those forms, there's a lack of agreement on how the creation happened and the nature of God and the gods and everything. I'd say decisively most versions of Gnosticism would be polytheistic in some sense. But really, ultimately, I think what we ought to say about Gnosticism, fundamentally, the question is, what is it that you worship, right? Because if you have all these different you have one group of knowledge, and this knowledge is or belief, and this belief is called one thing. People think, oh, so it should be easy to learn. No, these people don't agree on anything about the specifics of what's really true in relation to God and all those things. So the question is, okay, well, how are we able to see what Gnosticism is? And I think I've nailed it down, and really, it's fundamentally the worship of knowledge, or the desire for secret and hidden knowledge. So, for example, a good example would be the Gospel of Thomas, which is, there's a lot to do about the Gospel of Thomas. A lot of people know about this gospel. Now, it's interesting because the Gospel of Thomas actually has some legitimate words of Jesus in it, things directly from the Gospels. So you're like, oh, that's from the Gospel. I recognize that. But it also has a lot of strange words that are not from the Gospel, right? So this would be, I would say, the Gospel of Thomas is sort of a Gnosticism gateway drug for people who are trying to get into Gnosticism, who are Christians. If you want to convert a Christian to Gnosticism, you just give them the Gospel of Thomas. At least that's the way that it seems to me when I read through it. Essentially, it's all about Jesus has more knowledge than anybody else, and no one can really understand. And it's all about knowing more and more and more and more. And there's you have Scientology, right? Scientology just gets you on the hook, right? You pay more and more and more. And they tell you, little things here and there, but they don't tell you everything until they have you hooked in for too long. And then eventually it sounds so weird and wacky and crazy that, well, you can't get out of it now. You've spent basically your whole life on it, right? So that's kind of the scam of Gnosticism, I'd say. But there's something really important about the nature of Gnosticism that we need to talk about right now, right? Which is the other aspect of Gnosticism that holds true throughout is basically this idea that the physical is basically evil and the spiritual is basically good. Meaning, they actually have an evil god, Yaldabaoth. That's its name. It's called, or he's called the Demiurge. Yaldabaoth is this god that creates everything physical, right? Everything is beautiful and spiritual before Yaldabaoth shows up. He says he's the one and only God. Basically, it indicts the Old Testament God and gives him this name, Yaldabaoth, and makes him the evil creator of everything, right? So it twists and perverts Genesis so many times. There's so many different creation narratives that I read that it's like, and they all contradict each other. But the important thing is the God of the Bible is super evil and bad, and don't listen to him, guys. Totally bad, right? So basically, the spiritual or knowledge is fundamentally more important than the physical, which, right, of course, they need to cast Jesus as someone who's... Well, all this is to essentially say that the danger of Gnosticism it's dangerous to those who are looking to obtain knowledge that a lot of people don't know. There's a lot of that going around nowadays, not just in Christian circles, in normal circles of, hey, I want to know this, I want to know that. Knowledge is becoming, people are understanding the power of knowledge, and so they listen to podcasts, they go to school, they do all these kinds of things to attain knowledge. And knowledge is good in the proper context. The question is, what do we worship, right? Do we worship the knowledge itself, or do we worship God? If we worship the knowledge itself, we're going to fall into these Gnostic things, and we're going to have backwards theology, and we're going to get carried away with our own thoughts and whims, which is very tempting for those who are very intelligent. For those who are not as intelligent, it's not as tempting. So I would say Gnosticism is tempting to those who like to attain knowledge. So those who like to attain knowledge, be careful of Gnosticism. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you on the flip side. Bye, guys.